I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We've got Gus Hansen back for part 2.
This is part 2 of 8.
It's part 2 of 2, but very interesting stuff. And if you didn't see episode 1, look for it on the Scoop page on Card Player TV, and check it out. I read a thing I always liked. There's a basketball coach, Bill Fitch, who's retired now but won a lot of games. At one point, I think the second most games in the NBA history. And he was known that he would call a play, and if it worked, next time down he'd call a play, and if it worked, he would just literally keep calling it until the other team stopped it, even 10 times in a row, and then when they stopped that play, he'd go to the next play. And I thought, well, there's a lot of logic to that. The other team might outthink itself going, they're not really going to try that play again, but they are.
No, I mean,
and why not?
It's like the most, one of the most winningest coaches in European soccer for Milan. I mean, he said, I'm not sure he said it, came up with it, but he was like, basically, soccer team consists of 11 players, and he's just like, never change a winning game, and basically if these 11 players won the previous game, why on earth
right.
would he use any substitution for the next game? I'm going to start with the same 11 players.
Yeah.
And if they win again, it seems like we got to go to a little group going. And then keep on going where people, they try to make their big master plan and change, maybe if we can do this, and maybe they outthink themselves. It's kind of like you said, it's very simple. It worked. We'll try it again. And hey, maybe they just can't stop this play.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't stop this play. Let's keep on doing it.
Mourinho doesn't follow that. He switches the line every game. Are you going to write a book about the World Poker Tour Championship? Because you made the second in that. That would be
well, I will say I was somewhat lazy in that tournament. I did not have my tape recorder with me. I took some notes from some interesting hands that I played, but I didn't bring my tape recorder. And also one thing that I don't think it really hurt me in the Aussie Millions, because I think taking everything down into the tape recorder kind of remembers how you play against different players, and then when you see that player again, maybe later on in the tournament, you actually have a picture of how this person played, so that helps me. But it also takes attention away from the table, because every time I've played a hand, I look at the next hand, I'm not going to play this, and I step away from the table, so I don't see the action of that hand. So it takes away something. I think it adds a little bit, just remembering, talking in the hands, remembering what was going on, what was his impression. So it adds a little bit, but it also takes away something. So I chose not to do it for the
WPT.
For the WPT, but I'm definitely going to do it again. I also write blogs here and there, and it's just like you play so many hands, and you can't remember them all. If you take them down on a tape recorder, you have them all. But there's just like, sometimes you play a long day and there's a lot of interesting hands, but you can't, how exactly did it go, and how many chips did my opponent have, and they're all it's all relevant.
Which is very
my good friend Paul McGrill, backgammon guru, blah blah blah, has also, he's credited in Dan Harrington's book for the concept of M. Has a lot of good ideas. Unfortunately, he's not always able to use his ideas when sitting at the table. He has a lot of he's a great player away from the table. I think he's a good player at the table, but I think he overdoes some of his concepts. Why did I say that? Why did I mention Paul McGrill? I can't remember. I lost my mind. But anyway, I mentioned him anyway.
Well, maybe it's related to the fact that, I thought it was fascinating because we were at the same table in the main event a couple of days last year, and every hand, you had your tape recorded, you'd get up, you'd walk away like you said, and you'd talk to the recorder. And I was thinking, on the one hand, of course, you're missing stuff, and also it uses a lot of energy. Even just resting between hands has value, and every time you're getting up, you're talking, you're making sure, changing the tapes and the whole thing. But on the other hand, it really disciplines you to pay attention to every hand. If you're going to have to record every hand, then you have to watch every hand, and you have to remember what everybody did in the hand and what
Yeah.
everybody was looking like in the hand. So you can't be watching the TV or talking to somebody or daydreaming. So it can have a pretty positive effect in that sense, and it can also make you think about why you did something because you're recording. I decided to fold this hand because I picked up this towel or because my image might have changed, whatever. So, I mean...
No, there's definitely...
The net seems to be positive to me.
There's definitely mental notes you're going to make, and you're going to... I mean, I think they always tell you in school, well, you're going to remember better if you're going to write it down and this and that. And I think there's a lot of truth to it because I know I remember things better when I've played the actual hand, seen the actual action, and now I record it, so I have to play it over in my head one more time. So I haven't played it once, I've played it twice, so obviously I'll remember it better. Just to get back to the whole Paul McGrill thing, is what I was thinking of. He always said that people come up and they ask him a poker question and this and that, and obviously people come up and ask me poker questions as well. And I'm always very... If I ask somebody, like a friend of mine, Patrick Antonius, we discuss a hand and this and that, I know all the details of the hand because else it's not an interesting question.
Right.
Okay, they come up, oh yeah, you know what, this guy raised and how many, I don't know how many chips he had, and this, but I think he was in middle position, blinds were, we were just starting off, and then you're just like, what kind of question is that? I mean, I can't give you an answer, it's poker, so there's no yes or no answers most of the time. Sometimes there is, obviously. Sometimes there, but they ask a question. It's not even a question because you miss like 4 entities, which really makes it.
I love people who say, tough situation. I had pocket jacks. I raised. I got re-raised. What should I do now? Well, yeah, that is a tough situation, but there's no way to even begin to answer without all the context and everything else. I mean,
I just tell them to fold.
That's actually I might pick up on that one.
Don't play it.
You don't want to fold that one.
End the conversation.
Don't get it.
Gus, you'll be happy to know that one effect of your book, a direct effect, is that I've now gone broke in several vital situations because I'll call any raise from the big blind, and then if I happen to flop a pair with my jack deuce, I'm just I get broke, and the guy has queens.
Adam was at full tilt at the final table of the tournament, and I was watching, and Adam called a raise with a jack deuce, and then went busted on the hand, and I was
the jack. What am I hoping to flop?
I was very critical, even though people know I'm not a very hard critical person, but I was very critical. And Adam said, Gus Hansen would defend me, so...
Hey, I mean, once you call with a jack deuce, whether it's suited or offsuit, and there's an ad, and the flop comes, whatever, it came jack 9-4, I mean...
Ace jack.
It became ace jack something? Well, that makes it a little bit different, but then again, I mean, it's like people raise on the button. I mean, again, when people raise on the button, what do they have? I mean, I think one of the most important things that unfortunately I don't do all the time is like just somebody raises and now you have your hand and just say to yourself, okay, what does he or she have?
Right.
And a lot of times the answer to the question is, it's a tight guy in first position. Well, he has a good hand. I'm not going to bother with it. I'm not going to try and figure out if the guy has ace, king, or 2 queens. I'm just not going to play my hand.
Either way, the jack
but if there's a guy on the button, could he have the 9-6 offsuit? Yeah, he raised from the button. I mean, the button gives everybody an excuse to play any 2 card.
Sure.
So now suddenly my jack deuce, obviously a piece of hand, we all know that, but it's 2 cards, and again, I don't mind seeing the flop, and basically jack deuce, it's going to play pretty easy if you don't hit a jack or deuce on the flop.
That's one of the advantages, which is it's a black and white situation because you're not going to go crazy unless you hit pretty big when you play these types of hands.
People always say that I'm crazy calling with these hands, but it could be somewhat crazy, but the thing is, actually, I believe that a lot of money is lost on a hand like ace-king. You play an ace-king heads up, and now the flop comes jack 7-3, and it's just like, why would he have hit? I mean, I have ace-king. It could easily be the best hand,
right.
and now the 9-7 is just a solid favorite against the Ace King. I mean, he hit a pair of sevens, and now it's actually the Ace King that loses more. Whereas if the raiser instead of Ace King had the 10-4, he's just going to fold.
Right.
I mean, you're not. I mean, the only way to get in trouble with bad hands if you connect, which means they have to connect better, and it's just not easy for two. I mean, basically, we all know the number is around 34%. You have two cards to hit a pair.
Right.
Of course, if you're suited or connected, you have straights and flush possibilities coming up. But if we're just talking pairs, it's around 34%.
Yeah.
But if I hit, let's just assume he has two different cards and I have two cards. If I hit, his chances of hitting are a lot less than 34%.
Right, of course.
Because now he has only two cards left to hit. So I mean, it's like the only way to get in trouble with these hands is you hit and they hit better.
Yeah.
Of course, they can start with the big pair and then you're just fucked. And I have no doubt in my mind that I've been in more situations where I have people talk about, oh, I have two overs. I get a lot of times I have the two unders.
Right.
I've been in that spot more than anybody I know, and it's not a pretty spot. Sometimes you get really lucky and win them anyway, but it happens sometimes, and basically when you have the two unders and I call a small raise before, I mean, I still have to connect to get in more trouble, and then I have my 20-odd%, 21%, 22%, and okay, I'm uphill, but it has happened before, and sometimes you win them.
But this could still be a very dangerous book. I always think of like books about blackjack card counting. You know, guys read it once, they think it's easy, they go down, and the casino makes more money off those guys than anybody playing a basic strategy. So a lot of people will read the book, they'll kind of just capture the surface information, play a lot of hands, call a lot of raises, call people's all-ins, without all the subtleties and without the experience of having been in those situations, because it sounds simple, but let's say you connect and you bet and the other guy calls you, or he raises you. Now you've got to make a judgment, and you've been in that situation so much that you really know how to play it. So I do think there will be a lot of people who just kind of take the surface lessons and without the subtleties, and make a lot of mistakes.
No, definitely. I've it's always. I've started out playing backgammon, and in my little home game back when I started, there was two players. I was at least a level better than both of them, but one player played very straight, simple, straightforward, nothing. He was trying to get his checkers home as soon as possible, as quick as possible, and obviously I maneuvered my checkers better around the board, so I was going to win, but he had a reasonable idea, so I was going to win small. The other guy, he had kind of an idea of the concepts of the game, so he was kind of maneuvering like me, but he didn't understand when he should maneuver one way or another. So even though he probably had a little bit better idea of the game than the weak guy who just...
He was never going to beat you.
I always crushed him because his concepts, he had idea of the concepts, but he wasn't able to put it in place in the right spots. And that's what you're saying. You touch upon the surface, but you don't get the little small details. And I've already had a lot of recommendations from people saying that I should write a book about cash games, because they would make so much money in their cash game because all the other guys in the game would read that book and play some crazy hands. So it's definitely true. I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous when you do something without quite understanding.
A little knowledge is a dangerous thing, isn't all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's again, you have some of the people who ask you the questions and they forget 2-3 details, and that's probably the same people who will touch the surface, but they forget 1 or 2 details about that. I had a deep stack against that deep stack, and I didn't want to get involved. And now, well, he called with a 9-5 offsuit why can't I call the 10-6 suited? That's much better. Yeah, but this was not the right spot to lose your entire stack when you were doing so well in the. So I mean, there's definitely different factors.
We were talking about you doing this project at the World Series main event last year and keeping track of every hand. Then you were knocked out. You said you played some hands poorly at the end. Was there any connection? Was the project somehow impacting those hands that at the end that you played poorly?
No. It was really. I mean, when I look at myself, I won't even tell you the hands. I mean, I'm sure they were shown. Shown. I mean, one hand I've described in an article in Card Player was against the giant chip leader. Doc Martin from Norway, where he raised and I re-raised, and he made a seemingly small re-raise, and I was just disgusted about the prospects of this hand, and I was disgusted about he was the only one. I was doing very well in chips. I had at that point, it was late day 4, I had 1.7 million, with the average being a lot less, probably in the 600-700 range. So I was doing very well, but he was the giant chip leader with like 3.5 million. So I mean, I just got into the table like a couple of rounds before, and he had been in the ram and jam, and I got really mad at myself for not playing the hand till the end before I got entangled with him. I knew that he was going to raise. He was raised 2 off the button. I was on the button. And I looked down at Ace Queen, which is a giant hand against a guy who raises about 60% of the hands. Yeah. So obviously, seemed like a re-raise, and I'm going to make it a little bigger than normal because he's going to know that why would he get entangled with me? And any reasonable, that's what I'm saying, he was playing full speed ahead, and obviously he outplayed me the hand. But so I raised without thinking, well, he had played with no disregard for anything so far. So why would he have any regard for my 1.7 million, or the fact that it's me that probably has some tournament experience or this and that? He hasn't given a shit about anything so far, so why would he? And the fact that I didn't think about that, and obviously everybody folded, got burnt in, and he re-raised, and now I was just, this looks like this is the... Do I want to play an ace-queen offsuit for the entire tournament? I mean, I have more than double the average stack, and it looked like he's going to turn over 2 kings, and I'm going to look like the biggest idiot, and I'm going to be out in 124th. I mean, what a stupid... I mean, I've never been in trouble the entire tournament. Why I'm looking for this spot, and went like this, I'm fucking fold. And I was just disgusted with myself for not just... I mean, basically, it was a chess player. Oh, I can move my rook there and say chess. Yeah. And then two moves later, that rook is dead. I mean, it's like it was basically only 2 more moves ahead I had to consider. And maybe I would have thought about them and said, you know what, if he does that, I'm willing to play the entire tournament. But then I would have made the decision beforehand, or say, I'm not really ready for this. Maybe let's call. Let's call, see what develops. A little more Doyle style. Call, flop a queen or an ace, and if I flop a queen and he has 2 aces, so all the best to him. Then I'm not going to get away from it.
Put yourself in a situation where now you have to guess. Nothing's happened, and now you're guessing for the whole tournament.
And I was just mad at putting myself in the spot because it was so easy to look ahead those few moves, and that was one of the hands, and it also, on top of folding that hand, it also makes him even more impressive because I've just made a move at him, which wasn't a move, but he made a remove and just made me wonder. And once you start wondering and second guessing yourself, you're just not in a good spot. So it was actually lucky that it was late day 4 because we were done like 10 minutes later, and I was just dying to get out of there. And then on day 5, I made another silly play. But what really happened is I just had the second best hand, like a couple of hands in a row, and that will kind of do you in. But overall, I was happy with the performance, but really mad that actually when it really mattered on day 4 and day 5, I made like 2 crucial mistakes that for the love of I don't know who, I can't understand why I came up with these two, because it was a spot where I've gotten so much better at just sitting down. You're in a tournament, you can take your time to see what's going on, what am I, and I've gotten a lot better at it. I did it a lot in the Aussie Millions, and the World Series last year was 6 months later, so I should really have, that was a spot, but it's just so obvious. I knew he was going to race, so I was going to re-race without thinking about the consequences of his 3.5 million and so on. So that was, hey, my own mistake, so I paid for it.
So not so much the hands that you got knocked out on, but once before that would have changed the whole dynamic in terms of your chips and the table.
No, it changed the dynamics. If I had made my decision, I'm going to play this hand for the whole, I would have moved all in on against that dark mark. I would have taken like 600,000 from him because he would have folded, and suddenly he has 2-9 and I have 2-3. Now it's a different ball game. Now he's looking over his shoulder because I'm on his left. So, I mean, it would just change the dynamics and also made me feel more comfortable.
Right.
So
this is something that comes up in this book as you move to different tables. In that situation, you've got another player who's also very aggressive, who's active, who's pretty fearless, Scandinavian, and he's got a lot of chips. How important is it for you to be the table boss? I mean, it seemed like sometimes you wanted to establish right off the bat that you were the one who was going to be dictating the pace and dictating the raising. Is that still a big
I think
for you?
I think it definitely helps you. I mean, most of the time it seems like it comes somewhat natural because I play more hands than most people, but obviously you still have the Dark Mountain, the Annette Oberstadt, who's done very well, and then you have obviously the big name players, a guy like Phil Ivey, and it just, your comfort level is so much higher, especially I think if I'm going to sit at a table with Phil Ivey, I'm not going to try and mess with him, and he's going to try and mess a little bit with me, but still there's better spots to pick at. But some of the young internet players, you might be able to rattle them a little bit. For example, if I'd moved all in on Dark Martin, he would definitely have taken a breather after that hand, just shoving out 600,000 without even seeing a flop. I mean, that would have definitely slowed him down a little bit. And I mean, I think it's important. I played the World Series of Poker Europe last year. Got knocked out in 10th just before the final table, or at the final table, kind of. I was on day 3. I was a massive chip leader, or not massive, solid chip leader, and Patrick Antonius was solid second in chips. And it was basically the worst draw in the world. He was not exactly on my left, but one to my left. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, I'm not looking to tanko with Patrick. I mean, as I saw it with like around 40 players left, I don't care. We can say he's the best player left, or we can say it's me. It doesn't matter. I don't want to play with him, and he shouldn't want to play with me. But I couldn't really control it because there's only like 2 hands around where I'm actually in position against him.
Right.
There I can kind of decide, and he could still elect to defend his blind because that's going to be in his blind spots. But what happened? He really wanted to dance with me. So I think it really, actually really hurt us both. That he really wanted to be the table captain, and I really would like to too. But there's certain spots where I'm not. If Phil Ivey's at the table, I'm not looking to be the dominant. I'm going to look to pick my spots. Maybe it's going to hurt my equity a little bit. But of course, with Phil Ivey at the table, it's going to hurt your equity.
Right.
You'd much rather have a granny from Minnesota sitting at your table. Obviously, that goes without question. So having him is going to hurt your equity. Having Patrick right there on my left was going to hurt my equity. But I think he actually hurt us both.
Right.
By getting entangled. Every time I put a chip in the pot, it looked like he was looking to stick it to me.
Mutually short destruction.
Of course. And is that more ego on his part, or just the fact that that's just the way he knows how to play?
I mean, to me, Patrick is a great player. He's a great internet player. He's a great live cash game player. He's a good tournament player. I think he has some shortcomings there. We all have. It's poker. But a situation like that, he should not have gone for me.
Right.
I mean, that was stupid on his part. It really hurt us both. But Patrick is very much in love with position, and so is about every poker player in the world. I'm probably one of the poker players that are least in love with position, but obviously it's still a very big factor. And the fact that you could say ego, I think he wanted to outplay me in position. That was what he was looking for, and he was eyeing my big stack, but I think he should have just been eyeing all the other stacks at the table. I think that was a mistake on his part, because I actually laid down the best hand the first time, but because I didn't think he was going to do it without actually having something. But then I realized, hey, he's coming after me. Okay, I'm not going to let this happen.
Right.
So, I mean, okay, let's push some chips in the pot. And I think it just took too much from the attention of the other players that we were kind of jamming at each other. Yeah.
Gus, it's been a pleasure having you. You've got to play some tournaments.
Yeah.
Try to win some cash here at the World Series.
Beautiful bling.
You're here.
Come on.
You might as well get the bracelet, just since you're here.
Since I'm here, the beautiful Rio, gotta get a bracelet.
You'll give it an effort. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Gus.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop. Write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com. Join us for another episode brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Thanks.
Two bracelets. Awesome.
Well, you know, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So I had to call.
We play at FullTiltPoker.com.